Hey guys, Sullivan here in Philadelphia. So I know that there are tons of shows about what it's like to renovate the inside of a house, but what happens when you get a yard that is almost as problematic as the inside of this kitchen was? Actually, I think the yard might be worse because there was no poison ivy growing in the kitchen. Well, stay tuned and I'm going to show you what 2 seasons of pretty solid effort from a newer gardener looks like, and I can't wait to show you some of the stuff that I've learned, some of the stuff that looks beautiful, and some of the things that I have coming up. So let's get started. And if you love all things flora like I do, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when new videos go up Mondays and Thursdays. All right, let's get the tour started. So about almost 9 years ago, my husband Tim and I were out looking at vacant houses. We weren't really intending to buy anything. We just kind of wanted to see what was out there in a couple of price ranges. And we ended up seeing this house in East Mount Airy in Philadelphia. And even though it looked like this, I thought that it could eventually look like this. Actually, I didn't know about this paint color at the time, but it had a ton of potential. And so, like any old house, project snowballed. We spent a long time on the interior and didn't get to start really thinking about the outside until about 3 years ago. Man, it's such a good day to be outside. This is like the first day where you can kind of feel that fall is coming. It's like the perfect temperature. 2 years ago, I decided to transition to moving out of my old big studio. If you follow me on Instagram, I've had 2 studios since I started my business 10 years ago. And so I decided I was going to move home full time. And lucky me, I could take our sunroom and turn it into my home office because it has its own separate entrance, and it felt like a separate space. So the sidewalks used to look like this. And we got this great hardscaping guy. We got his info from the stone yard where we were looking at the stone, and he was able to completely redo the walkway and steps and make me this beautiful entrance to my office. I mean, he even got some of the same stone as our stonework to clad the front of the steps here. It was just like amazing. Also, you know, it gave us the structure that we needed to start to think about some flower beds or gardening, landscape. These beds existed in front of the windows, but now with the new walkway to the office, it was kind of creating some spaces that were defined, which I think is what I needed to get started. The rest of the yard, parts of it still are. All of it was incredibly overgrown, incredibly overwhelming, and looks like a huge amount of space for someone that has never really gardened before. It was just like intimidating. Yeah, we have slate on our roofs. There's the roof of the garage. It's really beautiful, but snow really like heats up and snow slides right off of it in like these huge cascades, like a cartoon avalanche. And so a lot of the plants that existed around the roof line here would just get like huge piles of snow dumped on them. And this beautiful old lilac, which is actually weirdly, one branch is blooming right now, it had gotten knocked over. So I actually have a before picture, but snow came cascading off the roof and knocked this guy out so that it was tipped forward. Stella's like, no one cares about this lilac. Look how cute I am. When I first started arranging flowers, I found it was like a lot easier to do like all neutral colors together, or all different shades of pink. It's called monocolor, not necessarily monofloral when you're using all of one flower, but monocolor. And so my first assortment of plants that I picked for this area kind of complemented the lilac. I had this rose actually was here, and it's this very pretty like bright magenta color. And so I started working on berry tones, plum tones, some chocolate, and everything that I thought would look pretty with this lilac. And it's evolved to be, it's really beautiful if it's looking, it could use a little more color right now, I think. I just got these coleus on sale, end of season, but it's been fun. The one thing I'll say about the lilac, it's just, you can see it's really leggy. I don't let a lot of growth happen in here because we don't want it to block the window, so I tend to keep this area really groomed up. So I just added this calicarpa and some more agastache because I think the color is really pretty and it grows really, really well. It's all pretty low maintenance. This is an Amsonia that bloomed early. There's a meadow rue back here that I cut back. Lots of catmint. My husband loves to buy pollinator-friendly flowers, and he buys too many of things, and we actually have so many Nepeta catmints. It's like crazy. I have been growing a huge quantity of dahlias, and most of my insect repellent attention has gone to them, and I'm afraid that my roses have been really neglected. So this is a rose Munstead Wood. It's putting on some really healthy, beautiful new growth, but you can see the bugs really got it. I'm trying to give all my roses some attention now that the dahlias are just kind of cruising along. Tiny Wine 9-bark. The coleus I just got on sale. I have some newer roses that will take another season to establish. This is a Miss Kim lilac. I planted it last year and it's not super happy. And I think I need to test the soil right here and see what it needs, because it didn't actually flower, though it did put on like a ton of growth. And it does have buds for next year. Rose No Name. I just love how the ground cover, I grew these pansies from seed. There's a Nepeta being drowned by the creeping Jenny. This is a really beautiful rose called Ebb Tide. The goal would be to start growing a few things taller to cover up this incredibly unattractive electrical meter. So I think in a smaller bed like this one, it's okay to kind of do a little of this, a little of that. I tend to think about my plantings as I would arrange them, not necessarily based on some like traditional landscape rules of 3s or things like that, although I am trying to buy more quantities of stuff. I'd say that's something I learned from my first year, is that 3, 5 things look better, but I don't know that in a bed this size you have to necessarily group things. I kind of like that, just like how I think of my centerpieces or my flower arrangements or my bridal bouquet. I actually want to see color kind of moving through the bed. I don't want to see a whole cluster of Nepeta, a whole cluster of roses, a whole cluster of coleus. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I get excited about when it looks like you've just kind of arranged it. And you got the silvery blue color of the Dusty with the chocolate color of this Creeping Jenny, and then that really pretty Heuchera color. So on my smaller beds, they're definitely a little more all over the place, but I think it's kind of interesting and fun. Is the fence line bed. The houses in our neighborhood are a little bit strange. My front door faces the very back of my neighbor's backyard. And the light changes from pretty much full sun here at this. This is a rose that was already here. Look at their amazing Quickfire, probably Quickfire based on its size, hydrangea. This is sort of sun to full sun. And then starting around here, more hosta, Heuchera, Japanese anemone. This is all full shade. And then it pops back into sun, part sun to full sun up front. But after I had some success with what I consider the lilac bed, I started moving on over here. And I was looking for maybe more neutral colored plants to start with that I thought that I could shape into something similar, because I think it's really cool how the lilac frames porch. So I have a, I think it's Pinky Winky hydrangea. You'll see I use a lot of chunks of foraged wood. I have tons of it from different event projects over the years. And I'm sort of training some climbing roses on this one. Last year I bought a ton of peonies without a ton of thought about where they would go. So there are a lot of them cramped here. A different color of a creeping Jenny and oak leaf hydrangea that did not get enough sun this year, so it didn't flower, though it does look pretty, put on a lot of growth. More peonies. We have had a super rainy season, so they're looking a little mildewy and sad. It has just basically poured rain every week. I need a great system for my hose. I just learned to build a drip system this year, and I have that in 3 of my garden beds, but I'm gonna have to take the water source from here over to here to get this all set up on drip, and frankly, I just couldn't face that this year. So neutral, spirea, these are some asters. I started from seed. The goal for this would be to get some clematis that will climb all the way up it, but I'm gonna have to look for some more vigorous climbers. And everything here kind of changes from peach and neutral tones into, there's a lot of scarlet. There's 3 different scarlet peonies in here. This kind of, I love this like kind of acidy green dogwood. When I first started buying plants, I really only thought about the flowers. I didn't think about winter interest or anything about evergreens. So that's a false cypress back in the corner. It's got really interesting colors throughout the year, and it doesn't get much wider than this, but it will kind of go up and fill in that corner. There's a climbing rose called Night Owl on there, some foxgloves that I started from seeds, some begonia, some annual grasses. But yeah, this was really, really gorgeous in the spring with all this like bright red color. And then once the peony blooms fade, it kind of starts to be this more kind of peachy, mustardy neutral. And then the steps to the walkway. So this section of the bed that kind of wraps around the front of the house is all on drip. And I did not continue the drip into this middle section. And there was a couple of annuals planted there and they died. So I think next year I just need to take this drip line and extend it a little bit. More of the old skeleton wood. It supports that peony actually back there. And then I'm training some roses to climb on it. This is something I started from seed. It's called Southern Charm Verbascum. I think it's super pretty. I did not have great luck with it in the other locations that I tried it, but I'm definitely going to grow a lot more of it next year and let it get a little more established in pots before I plant it. I just had to cut back. This is Creeping Jenny that's 2 years old. I love how it becomes this like kind of foamy waving cascade, but with the pine tree that provides mulch for this whole area, it was starting to look a little ratty. So I cut back some areas hard and hopefully it'll come back, or I'll have to replace a few. This year it's called Shiny Dancer Viburnum. There's some scabiosas that I started from seed. I just cut back. There were these pretty champagne hollyhocks. I planted a ton of bronze fennel that's just starting to get these little yellow flowers on it. And we have had so many butterflies this year. And my mother-in-law was telling me how much the caterpillars and butterflies love the fennel for food. So that's good. And I think it's really pretty. And it smells good. If you like the smell of licorice. If you don't like the smell of licorice, then you'll think it smells terrible. So this isn't looking so hot since I've had to do a little work. And then this goes around to the front of the house. Here is the front sunny section of the fence line bed. This is definitely a place where I have learned a lot. Honestly, most of the perennials that are in here are beautiful and thriving. Where I lost my way was with my seed starts. Everything is just like a lot taller and a lot closer to the front than it should be. So the nice thing is they're annuals. They won't be here next year. But I'm gonna have to do a little more planning and work to make sure that when I'm putting seed starts in the ground, like these white gladiolas that are sometimes called peacock orchids. They are so beautiful, but honestly, I forgot I planted them and they like sprung up absolutely everywhere. So they're way too tall and they're all at the front. This kind of shady bed, I feel like everything is too tight to the fence. So I'm thinking about raising the soil line of the bed all the way up so everything's level here, and pulling everything out from the fence. Everything's just too tight to the fence. But that's new gardener for you. I think I was so overwhelmed by the absolute like length of this bed that I was like, okay, I won't make it more than like 2 to 3 feet deep, and it just looks like too tight. And it's also not letting, because the fence creates some shadow, it's not really letting some of the things that need light get their sun. But yeah, I'm glad I have these, and I will cut them and make a cut flower arrangement with them. But next year I'm gonna have to be more strategic. I mean, it's just messy, but it's real. I didn't really think beyond getting the seeds to start, and this is what happens. So back here at the back porch was a really overgrown bed, and I hadn't intended to garden it this year because I didn't really need more work. But then I was out shopping for something else, I don't remember what, and saw this peony, and then realized that it needed these heuchera to go with it. And then this whole bed needed to get cleared out and fixed. So the hydrangea were here. I have a lot of progress video from this. I'll try to put a few stills and clips in here, but it's been fun. This came together really fast. More experimentation with at least repeating, if not clustering things together. It's just not how I design. Like, I don't like floral designs where you cluster all the roses together and all the this together. So I have a hard time doing that with plants. But I just added this coleus, which I got kind of like a end of annual season sale. This is just one Wendy's Wish salvia. I think it was a 4-inch can. So I'll definitely use that again, but work on its position because it is huge, but the bees and the hummingbirds and everybody loves it. I have some roses back here that this is sort of like the waiting room and recovery center. It's called Julia's rose, I think. It's totally defoliated from bugs, so I just have been taking care of these with like neem oil and a little extra rose feed. But oh, thank you, sun, for going away so I can actually film. But yeah, and then so this whole section, I love the plant combinations and we'll definitely keep it, but I have plans to change the shapes of this bed, and we have to work on the grading back here. So our house had this great stacked stone wall, and we can get more of it, so I'm actually going to raise it up by 1 or 2 rows just to help contain the soil. But Tim loves grasses and this kind of texture, and also is very interested in attracting pollinators, butterflies, hummingbirds, and bees. So we kept this section, it's lots of Russian sage, lots of different grasses. I tried to group the plants together a little bit more. So there's kind of a swath of Russian sage, a swath is maybe slightly aspirational. I have some thistle Eryngium that is not doing so great. Some annuals left over from a project I did, more fountain grasses, and just all different kinds of miscanthus. There is the saddest teeny tiny little oak leaf hydrangea in there that I will have to move. I think I broke it when I was doing my holiday decorating. This is a great porch for doing holiday decorations on, but yeah, I think this is coming along. I think this section is sort of a good example of what I'm trying to get the whole thing to look like. It's kind of grasses, butterfly bush that's sort of flopping forward, some Gaura, the bright acid green of like this Conocloa, more Russian sage that I just replaced this year, more grasses, and then the trees over here that are behind me, this pine tree and this maple, they got a little bit overgrown this year. So this section is not getting as much sun, and you can see the difference, right? Like it looks, this is all happy and healthy, and over there is like, where are the plants? And I know you can see all my drip tubing everywhere, but that is because it was my first time setting one up, and I didn't want to cover it in case I did something wrong or in case it wasn't working. So now that I know it works, next year, because I'm going to take it up for winter because we're redoing so much stuff, I will, next year I will be laying it and then covering it with mulch so that we don't have to look at it. Because the drip system really has been helping. Like the 3 sections of the yard that have it are like, they're thriving. They look beautiful. Everything else is manual water, and a lot of it is second year, so I don't have to water it all the time, but these are getting regular water and everything looks beautiful. So there's like a nice goal section, and next year hopefully everything will look like this beautiful section right here. Getting down, this is the front of our street, and you can see there's a stop sign back there, and then the street turns this way, and so this is all corner. And I will show you, but don't judge, because it gets progressively scarier as you get back over there. So big yard, and this is as far as I've gotten because we have to have a lot of tree work done over here. So I call this the birch bed because there are these 2 giant birch trees that all the tree guys have told us they're astounded that they're still here. I keep taking the ivy off of them, but honestly, they drop a ton of leaves and limbs, so its days are probably numbered, and we'll replace them with something that prefers our area a little bit more. But this is an example of a slightly larger bed that I tried to practice repeating plants. I made myself buy 3 of almost everything except kind of focal plants. The lamb's ear is doing really well. I was worried about that. And so this is one of the beds that's on drip, and well, the drip's been turned off because we've had so much rain. But everything here is first year, and it's doing really well, especially compared to some of my experiences last year where I was manually watering and maybe wasn't staying on top of it all the time. And while everything's showing, it looks a little beat up from all the rain and leaves and branches falling on it, everything here put on like a lot of size. And I plant with Biotone, and I maybe did like a fertilizer treatment midsummer. So I fertilize the dahlias and the roses, but I don't really do a lot of like intermediate supplementation. So I'm psyched about how everything is looking. I have a couple of roses planted in here. This one I'm obsessed with. This is like such a sad example. I'll find like a good picture, but it flowers continually, and it's called Jacqueline Dupre. And the last bed that I worked on this year would be my dahlia project, and I planted what seemed like a continually multiplying number of dahlias in this full sun corner of what we call our backyard, but it's really like the corner of our lot. And there's around 175 plants, I think. It's been a wet and rainy year. I definitely have lost a lot of plants, but and I have a whole separate video coming on just the dahlias because they are their own special kind of work. but it was so satisfying. I don't have tons of experience growing things, but it was just so much fun to grow something that grew so fast. It seemed like every day something was happening, and now they're just, we went away last week and there was a ton of rain, and so I came back and everything was mildewy and rotten, and I've had to do like a ton of cleanup, and the plants don't look so hot, but they're blooming and flowering, and they seem to be doing okay. So stay tuned. In another week or so, there is a dahlia video coming up, but it's been, this section in and of itself has just been like so much fun. And you can see the butterflies really like it over here, as do hummingbirds. But yeah, so stay tuned. Dahlia video coming in the next week or so. You can also look me up on Instagram at Sullivan_Owen if you want to see more day-to-day stuff. Let's just follow this. We'll probably traumatize this poor butterfly. Go back and tell its friends. The dahlias are pretty, but the lady's crazy. Thank you guys for watching my first ever garden tour. I really enjoyed sharing the progress, and looking back on the before pictures made me realize like how much progress we really have made. I think old houses like this feel like they will never be finished, but I can see I have come a long way. And I'm actually excited for the fall and winter projects, which are going to include like a lot of tree work and shaping of some new beds and getting them ready for next spring planting. So I'm really glad that I was able to do this tour, so that in a year or so I can look back and see how far we've come from here. Next up, I'm actually going to go cut some of that pretty stuff we just saw and make a cutting garden design. So if you love all things flora like I do, I hope you'll subscribe so you catch that video. Be sure to hit the bell. Videos go up Mondays and Thursdays. And to see more of my day-to-day, and I have lots of wedding work coming up, as fall is a busy time. You can follow me on Instagram at Sullivan_Owen, and leave me a comment if there's anything you want to see or talk more about. I have a whole block of videos already queued up for you, but I am always excited to hear what everybody wants to learn about. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Which is a project that we redid last year. Cool. Bangs look super cool when they are just cut and blowing in the wind. Maybe bangs were a mistake if I'm going to be filming outside so much. Hi. Hello. Don't claw the screen, please.